So now we're going to talk about demand curves. We're going to talk about what do we mean by a demand curve? What's going on here? Because people generally have quite an intuitive idea of demand curves, but they also tend to have um, errors, ways in which the understanding goes wrong. So it's often less intuitive than you think. So I want to build it up from the bottom. So let's say I've got a graph. Quantity is the x-axis and price is the y-axis, P and Q. And I want to say, well, what curve represents a consumer's willingness to buy? What we're asking is, what price would you be willing to sell? At what price would you need the market to be at, rather? What price would you need to be paying in order to be willing to buy a given quantity? So if I'm thinking in terms of chocolate bars, because it's a nice example, if I have one chocolate bar, maybe I'll be willing to pay even £2 for that one chocolate bar. But as I get, you want to sell me a second chocolate bar? Well, sure, but you're going to have to cut the price because I'm not going to pay £2 per chocolate bar for two chocolate bars. Why would I sink £4 into two chocolate bars? So maybe you'll have to drop the price to £1.50 for me to want to buy two. And maybe you have to drop the price again to £1 for me to have to buy three. And so from this, we can see this curve. So the curve is representing, not that I've drawn it very well, but the curve is representing how willing are you to pay a given price for any given quantity. And as the seller's trying to flog you more, they're going to have to lower the price for you to be willing to actually pay up. Another way of thinking about this is marginal benefit. So marginal means kind of extra. What's the extra benefit that you get? So if you're willing to pay £2 for one chocolate bar, we could say you're only willing to pay £2 because you've decided that the benefit of one chocolate bar is worth giving up £2 or more. So that's your marginal benefit. But for a second chocolate bar, you no longer value it as much, right? The second chocolate bar always hits the spot a bit less than the first. It's the same with any meal. It's the same with a film, right? Like the second Netflix episode is never as relaxing or fun as the first, etc. So it's diminishing returns of your marginal benefit and therefore diminishing willingness to pay. If you think of payment as kind of reflecting on how much are you willing to give up to get this thing. So that's why we have a downward sloping demand curve, and it reflects this benefit. So if the price changes, then typically we talk about movements along a demand curve, because my demand curve is the same. I still value one chocolate bar at £2 and two chocolate bars at £1.50 each, and so on. But it's just that the price has changed, so therefore the amount that I'm actually going to buy has changed. So say the price has gone up, so then I'm going to shift down along my demand curve. I say shift, I should mean contract. I'm going to move downwards on the x-axis. I'm going to reduce my quantity that I buy. So we would say, hey, that's a contraction in demand. And if the price falls, then maybe I'm going to move along to be willing to buy a third chocolate bar if suddenly it's £1 a chocolate bar. So then we could call that like an extension in my demand. So that's demand curves, and that's movements along demand curves. Now, next video, we're going to talk about what it means to actually shift the demand curve, what it means to move it out or down, or left or right, however you want to call it. But we'll talk about that next time.